All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for our monthly Lunch and Learn. Today, we're going to talk fundraising, which is a aspect that I think a lot of us maybe isn't our favorite part of it, but it's definitely necessary in our organizations. Um, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat at any time, and we'll answer those after our speakers get done. And afterwards, if you have some questions and you wanna unmute yourself, you can do that. But we will go ahead and jump right in. So we are going to start off with Kate from Heart of Jasper. And Kate, when you start, if you want to introduce yourself, your title, and how long you've been, that would be great. And I will let you have the floor.
Okay, and then in a little bit, can I share my screen to show our letter, Abby?
Yeah, go ahead. If you want to share it now, that would be perfect.
Okay, let's see here. Open share tray, is that what I'm?
Yeah, so right next to your mic should be the share, and then
About that.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, great. All right. So hello, everyone. I am Kate Schwenk, the director for Heart of Jasper. We officially formed as a Main Street in May of 2020, and I was hired in November of 2020. So a fairly newer organization, but we use our letter campaign as our main fundraising source. So happy to talk about that today. This is our second year of doing the letter campaign, and so learned from just made some improvements from last year for doing it. So I'll talk a little bit about those. Heart of Jasper was formed as through the City of Jasper's long-term planning. And so we really have a great support system from the City of Jasper, financially, in kind, and they provide our office space as well. And so I'll just talk about some of our other financial partners that we have as well. And so and then I'll kind of break down the letter and just what you're seeing there. So when Heart of Jasper began, forming the board and just starting out with how the program was going to be funded, our organization had 3-year commitments from some of our partners, and so City of Jasper was one. They said they would support Heart of Jasper by providing $10,000 for 3 years. So the funding commitment started in 2020, so then 2021, and now this is year 3, 2022. Our community foundation said they would be a financial sponsor for 3 years, so $10,000 the first year, $7,500 the second year, and then $5,000 the third year. That thought there is us learning how to fundraise on our own, and so they decreased the amounts over those first 3 years. Redevelop Old Jasper Action Coalition is a economic development group and a tourism group focused on the Old Jasper area. They committed to $5,000 for 3 years, our Jasper Chamber of Commerce 1,000, and our Merchant Association. So definitely a great boost for us. Those first 3 years to have those strong partners. So we can certainly continue to ask them to be financial sponsors, but that was a great commitment from them for us getting started and kind of getting our feet under ourselves, building our organization. So Heart of Jasper was not established to be an event based organization, really was more established to be that economic development engine. And so really that's our main focus. So we're more focused on filling the vacant buildings downtown, driving the foot traffic downtown, promoting downtown versus hosting events downtown. So that potentially could come in the future, but right now it's really more of that economic development group. So for the letter campaign that we have, we formed the letter in January. We mail it out in February. We include little heart confetti, so we send it around Valentine's Day weekend, and then being the Heart of Jasper, we just thought that was a cute touch. So we include a little heart confetti in the envelope. And we have 2 documents that are included in that mailing. So the first one is this letter. You should be able to see this on my screen here. So since this was our second year, we had a little bit more to talk about than we did our first round of the letter. So we just a brief introduction of kind of Heart of Jasper, Main Street, who we are. We mentioned in the second paragraph that we have 30 volunteers that serve on either our board or one of our 4 committees, just to kind of keep reminding people of that model that we follow. And then this we felt like was the most important part of just really highlighting the things that we accomplished over the past year. We could speak directly to where dollars went on these projects. And so if anytime someone asked what we did, these were our main projects, and really what we were able to speak for our fundraising dollars right there. So then we invite them to become a part of Heart of Jasper, include our vision statement to be the best small town experience for all, and then our contact information. So also thought it was very important to include our board of directors. Sometimes people give just because they know one of the board members are involved in the organization. So found that very helpful to have the board members. And then we did get a new website, so just our contact information down there. We have a decent list of businesses, large and small, private individuals, different organization partners that meet our mission that we send this letter to. First, it's a mailing. And so for each letter that we print off, our board members divvy up the letters, and we all write a note. And so at the bottom of the page in the blank space, we'll write a note and say, we don't start off with thank you. We start off with so-and-so business name. Last year, you gave $500 to Heart of Jasper for your sponsorship. We would appreciate or love to see that commitment again. So just some feedback from some of the business owners that sit on our board of receiving those letters, and how more of a direct note, and also letting them know what they gave last year makes it easier for them to give again a year later. So we try to include a note, especially if it comes from someone they know on our board. So we divvy up the letters that way amongst our board members to help get about 300 letters sent out. So that's the first page of our letter that we send to our donors there. And then the second page is the sponsorship form. So we created levels that the donors could choose from, just to make it a little bit easier. So we have the Heart sponsor at $1,000, and then we have the perks listed for those different levels. So the one fundraising event that we do have throughout the year is a farm to table dinner. This year, the spinoff name is Farm to Fiesta. It's held on our Main Street. So a bit of a unique event, being on Main Street, but that is really our only fundraising event. And so depending on the level of the sponsor, the individual could get tickets to that farm to table dinner. And then if they're a business, their logo will be on our website, and then we will also put their logo on any of our event promotions that we have. So we have different levels here. We have some that say they can only do in kind, also great. We have some that say they just want to volunteer, also great. So we put a date up here to get the form turned back by, just so we can collect that money earlier in the year. And then we do ask for this contact information to keep our records updated. And then the email address is important, so we can, they get our quarterly newsletter with our updates, and just making sure, since they are a donor and helping sponsor us, that we keep them updated with some of the progress that we're making. So we ask them to include a logo if they're a new sponsor, and then where to send the checks to. So it's kind of the breakdown how we started last year and modified it a little bit to this year, but been fairly successful. So we start with the mailing. If we don't hear back from some of the donors within a certain date, we'll do the follow-up phone calls, and the board helps with that, breaking out and doing those follow-up calls for us as well. So a little bit about our letter there, but I'm happy to help answer any questions, or if Abby, you wanted to go to the next person first and do questions at the end, that's great too.
Great, Kate. Thank you for that. And yes, if people want to ask any questions, please put those in the chat, and we'll follow back up with all three of our presenters at the end. So thank you, Kate. Next up, we have Missy from Heart of Lebanon. So same thing, Missy, if you just want to introduce yourself, your organization, how long you've been with it, and then you can take it away.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen.
Has the WebEx been launched? I don't see anything on the WebEx.
What do you mean WebEx?
In the invitation, there was a WebEx link, or I believe it was a WebEx link. That's what I clicked on, and I don't have anything. Or Teams meeting, rather.
Yes, so you should have clicked the Teams, and if you're looking for something, we're up. We're up and
Okay,
going.
I'll try it again. I did go into Teams. Thanks.
Yep.
Okay, I can't tell if my screen is sharing.
Yep, we can see it.
Okay, you can see it. Okay,
yep.
I'll go ahead then. My name is Missy Krulik. I'm the executive director of the Heart of Lebanon. I have been brought on board since January of 2020 as part-time, and then just hired full-time this year. So excited about that. I was brought on to tell you a little bit about our fundraiser for our Alley Oop project. The concept for our Alley Oop project is Lebanon is rich in basketball history. We still have our historic gymnasium that's within our district. We had several state championship teams, and then we have Rick Mount, who was the first high school basketball sports player that was featured on Sports Illustrated. So that's kind of our rich history in basketball. We have an alley that's located on our downtown square that's been vacated to vehicular traffic. So it's just a pedestrian alley. It's kind of a blank slate. You can see our courthouse there. And then if you're looking, if you're standing at the courthouse looking north, you'll see our old high school that was converted into apartments. And then the gymnasium is attached. That the people, the residents of the apartments can use, and then it's also used by the community. So this is the design concept for our alley. This is home, and home is basketball. Has a lot of different features in it, but the main point of the alley is a historical walking tour of the history of basketball in our community, using visuals and using a touring app. So it's kind of the design concept, overall design concept with a basketball court and some interactive items on the pavement. Okay, so an alley like this costs a lot of money. So we're working to raise funds for this alley to bring this to the community. So we decided, what's Indiana about? Basketball and tenderloins, right? So we decided to have a tenderloin tip-off competition this year. It was our first go at it. So we learned a lot of things. Some things were successful, so I thought I'd share those with you. We had a ticket price of $40. It was for 21 and older. It was not a family event. We kicked that around a little bit, but decided to go with something for 21 and older crowd. For that $40, you got an entry, tenderloin samples, brews and spirit samples, and a door prize entry. So some of the different marketing things we used was, just our tenderloin contenders, who they are, who will win, just kind of hyping that up a little bit. We used only local restaurants this year, but are willing maybe next year to branch out a little bit. So these were all restaurants within our community that serves tenderloins currently. And then we have event sponsorships. Because our logo for the alley is "This is home" and "Home is basketball." We thought a home builder would be a great addition as event sponsor. So we approached Ryan Holmes, who is building a development here in our community currently, and they were excited to partner with us for that. So they sponsored the event and made door prizes available. We had like the movie Hoosiers because our gymnasium was featured in that movie. We had basketball history books that were written by local historians. And then we had the Milan championship team that was the inspiration for Hoosiers. We had some team memorabilia that we gave away during that event. We also had some social media contests, which turned out to be great. We did some contests, and then we sent out some virtual kind of tickets for people. We found that as we gave out tickets, we sold more tickets because that person didn't want to come alone. So they generally got their friends to purchase tickets. So that was a good catalyst for helping us sell more tickets. And then of course we had posters and flyers around the city where people could scan the QR code to buy tickets. We did our tickets through Indiana On Tap as our ticket platform. So some of the event details, we had it within the historic gymnasium. They donated that space for us to use, which was great. When people came to the event, they of course checked in at the event, and they got you can see the trays there. Has the tray, the ticket that they used to vote for their favorite tenderloin that they tried, and then also they could add in dollars for additional votes if they had a People's Choice Award that they wanted to award to one of the local restaurants. An entry form for the door prizes, and then their cup for their brewery samples and their distillery samples. Also there, our decorations, of course, were just balloons and high top tables, and on the tables we had pictures of the alley just to remind people what we were fundraising for. We had barriers. You can see the barriers in the background that we had part of the gym cordoned off for playing basketball. We had some basketball games and that we did during the event. And we had a photo booth. You can see some of my board members down there in the photo booth, just having a little bit of fun. So, with the food, we gave everyone free waters. We offered free waters. We got bags of chips donated by Frito-Lay. I don't know if any of you utilize Frito-Lay, but they give donations to nonprofits one time per year. You can fill out a form and get some chips donated for your events. And then also we had the local theater pop some popcorn for us. And we had bags of popcorn for people to eat while they were at the event. And then we had our breweries and distilleries come and set up. We just invited them to attend and give out samples, which they did. We had about 6. So we had a good amount of distilleries and breweries at the event. And then, of course, you can see the trophies up there, larger than life trophies that we had made for the Best Tenderloin juried trophy and the People's Choice Award trophy. And we had the jury. We picked the mayor, we picked our guest speaker, and we picked the head coach of the Lebanon Leprechauns to be our jury. So there we had Roland Cutter, a member of the Milan High School 1954 state championship team come. That was the inspiration for the movie Hoosiers. So he came and gave a little speech and signed some autographs. And so that was kind of fun to have him there. We had a community pep band So we had some local adults that formed a community pep band, and so that was a lot of fun for them. We had a knockout competition where people could step up and be in a knockout competition, and the winner received a gift card from one of the local restaurants. And then we also had members of the Lebanon Leprechaun basketball team come and kind of mingle with the patrons. There was a spontaneous 3-on-3 game that happened between the Lebanon Leprechauns and some of the city leaders. So that was kind of fun to watch how easy it was for the semi-pro basketball team and effortless it was for them to play basketball against our city leaders. And then we also had a DJ to just kind of fill in some time with some music when we needed it. Our income with ticket sales and sponsorships was $6,000. Our donations included the knockout prizes, the chips, the location, and the tenderloin. We actually had a local meat distributor donate the tenderloins, and then we distributed those to the restaurants. And then they used those tenderloins to create the tenderloins that they gave out for the competition for samples. Our lessons learned, to develop a contract with restaurants. We had several local restaurants when we went to them initially said, yeah, we're excited. We want to be a part of this. It's going to be so much fun. And then when it got closer to the event, they kind of started to bow out for various reasons. So maybe something, some type of contract with the restaurants for the attending the event. And then develop a better strategy to get donations during the event. We tried to get people to donate money to be in the knockout competition, but then we couldn't get anyone that wanted to do it. But if you offered it for free, a lot of people wanted to do it. So just trying to figure out a better strategy to get donations while we're at the event, maybe a silent auction or something else. And then also to give the judges that are judging the food a scorecard. So that they can fill that out, and you'll have that as proof that they tasted the tenderloins from each area. We had an instance where one of the restaurants was upset because they didn't think that the mayor had tried their tenderloin, and he did. I asked him, and he said, yeah, he did, absolutely. So just maybe having the scorecard so that that you have that proof that everybody tried and what their rankings were. So that's kind of our event in the nutshell. We've been asked to do it again, and our board loved it, thought it was a fun event, and the city leaders who came thought it was a great event. So we have it scheduled again in February of next year. So.
Great. Sounds like something really fun. Our final speaker today is Andrea from Downtown Wabash. So Andrea, if you want to introduce yourself and take it away. Oh, you're muted.
I was muted. Well, I'm Andrea with Downtown Wabash, and I'm not going to share anything on this screen today, but I'll post a couple links in the chat for you. You can hear me now, right, Abby?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure. So I actually was going to talk on a different topic, but after hearing Kate and Missy, I'm going to pivot a little bit. And this isn't my strong suit to go off script here, but Kate has a very similar fundraising letter campaign to what we do here in Wabash, and so I wanted to touch on that a little bit. But I just put in the group chat here. Did everybody? Can you see that link, like Kate or Missy, that I put in the group chat?
Yep, it's there.
Okay. In December of 2020, we did a Facebook takeover from the IMS page, and some of you might not have been here at that time, but we did a pretty robust conversation about our letter campaign as well. And so there's some good resources there and samples of our letters. And so that might be a better use of your time, just to go at your leisure and watch some of those videos that were recorded there. And there was a cheat sheet of cliff notes of how to do your fundraising letter campaign if you haven't done it before, and it felt really intimidating. So I'll just give you a breakdown. So we're in Wabash. It's a population of 10,000 people, but we're one of the older main streets. And so we're 41 years in the making. And so there was a great foundation already here when I stepped in as the director. I guess it's been 3 years. It might be 4 this fall that I've been with the organization in general. I came with 10 years of nonprofit experience, and that team had professional fundraisers. And so while I was not a professional fundraiser, I got to see a lot of that and learn through osmosis on how to be a fundraiser. So our current operating budget here is $150,000 a year. As with all main streets, our goal is to make enough money to spend it all. And so our net is $0 at the end of the year. We break that down in sort of thirds. And so a third of that comes from the city, a third of that comes from our fundraising letter, and a third of that comes from sponsorships or grants or event registration and different types of things. And so our letter campaign that we send out is very successful. We fundraise $46,000 through that letter campaign per year. And we're going through some growing pains right now with that, because for a long time, since the history of ever, we've called it a membership. And we talked with National Main Street about that, and we're thinking about changing that model. It terrifies me a little bit because it's been so successful, but it's confusing to people thinking that they get perks with that. And so you don't technically need to give them any perks. The membership is a donation, an annual fund drive. And so we're looking at changing that model to becoming Friends of Downtown or something more like that. And so stay tuned on how that works for us here in Wabash. But it can be confusing because we have members, we have donors, we have sponsors, we have downtown businesses, we have businesses that support us from outside of downtown. And so it all gets a little mushy, as I like to say. And so trying to figure out how we can best capitalize each of those things in downtown. So I think what I want to pivot and talk about is that we're embarking on something new, and we are doing a long-range fundraising plan with our board of directors. And it's just in the beginning stages right now. And so that's the part that I don't have all the answers, but I have some of the ideas on what we've been talking about. And we're really fortunate because one of our board of directors this is what she does for a living. So she's a nonprofit data consultant, essentially, and supports nationwide for grant services, for writing fundraising plans, for anything in the nonprofit realm that people need assistance with. They're consultants that you can hire to do this. And so we've tapped her to say, hey, how about doing this for us for free? So she's giving us sort of the Cliff Notes version of how to do some of this long range funding as well. And so the reason why we're looking at doing this 3-year fundraising plan is because we've added staff. And so our board of directors decided, I think that's how most main streets go, we hope that we can sustain it. And so we decided to take that leap of faith and hire another full-time position last year with the hopes that we would grow our capacity enough that we could continue to fundraise more and more. And so this 3-year plan puts us into a position to be able to fully pay for that position year over year, not just one time. I got this grant one time and I could cover it. This is sustainable funding. And so our goal is $30,000 over 3 years. And we'd actually like it to be more, but 30,000 sounds scary enough. So let's just say that for now. So the goal next year in 2023, being year 1 of year 3, is to see a $15,000 staffing subsidy. So we know we're going to go into the year with not enough money to pay for this position. By year 2, we'd like to have let me see here. 20, 23, I lost track of my years. And then have the point where we get to the full staffing paid for And then year 3, reassess and see what we need to do to be able to continue. We're at 2.5 staff members right now. Is that sustainable to how we've grown into the future? And so the way that we've done this process with them is that there's traditionally 5 fundraising buckets. And so I'll put in a link here to the fundraising strategies that we've been learning through this group called Transform Consulting Group. And they call it 5 buckets. And those are the types of money that you can get, essentially. And so we're calling it 6 buckets for Main Street because we felt like we had a little bit of a different need. And so our 6 funding buckets, this is part of the step, was just identifying these buckets. We haven't said how much we're going to get from each of them. But the first bucket we're calling membership or Friends of Downtown or whatever that annual giving will look like. So that's bucket number 1. Bucket number 2 is the government. And so is there city funding or is there county funding? We currently only get city funding. Bucket number 3 is sponsorships for us. Bucket number 4 will be grants, which again, we typically just call one-time funding. The next bucket is fundraisers / event registration. And then bucket number 6, we're calling other. And other could be if we're getting bank account interest, if we're getting funding from the community foundation, if we get estate gifts, anything that kind of falls within that other kind of category. So we put this out there to our consultants and said, here's what we think are our 6 funding buckets. And we'd like to create a large scale fundraiser to lay within this plan. And they were actually very against that idea. And so we'd sort of teed up our promotions committee like, hey, we're going to do a large scale fundraiser, be thinking about what that cool idea should be. And the consultants looked at what we're already doing, and we're already curating nearly all of the events in downtown and have been for many years. They're all very successful. They're all free. And so no one's paying for any of that opportunity. And so they said, based on how much you're already executing in terms of event and how much time of your staff is already going to that, the net you would actually make off of a large-scale event fundraiser will actually be quite small. And so we'd really like you to consider doing one-on-one fundraising and going and making asks of individuals, more of a true development fundraising capacity. And so again, that's terrifying because we didn't sign up necessarily to be development officers, but maybe we can grow to the point where we can hire one, and that would be great. But that's basically the challenge that we have right now, is to figure out, they said, mine your data, essentially. So you go through who's already giving and who do you think could give more? Who do you think would be compelled to give if you made a personal ask of them? Would that ask become year over year, where they considered an annual campaign donation? And so really, I think, have to put on our true fundraising skills and step up to the plate and see if we can accomplish this. And so we've put together some metrics on how we think this will pan out. On, can we continue to grow membership while we're doing this? Can we grow sponsorship along with it? And will that take us to the place where we can grow our annual income by an additional at least $30,000 by 2024? And it's already 2022. It feels like we're half over. So that's sort of what we have cooking. I put, again, the link in for the Facebook event if you want more nitty-gritty details on how we did the letter campaign, which again, I highly recommend starting off with that and echoing what Kate said, all of that. And then the link here to Transform Consulting Groups with their fundraising strategies, to look at that as a potential guidebook, or just, Google general nonprofit fundraising strategies and creating a long-range fundraising plan, and if you're ready to tackle that. So that was my quick version of where we're at, and I think people probably will have a lot of questions.
All right. Thank you, Andrea. And thank you again, Kate and Missy. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask away.
Andrea, it's Kate. Will you ask your donors, have you ever asked them to commit to more than 1 year for like an individual donor? I am part of other organizations that do that, where they ask for a 3-year commitment, and we don't do that at Heart of Jasper, but I've been thinking about that, and so I was curious if you guys have discussed that.
No, we haven't. I mean, essentially that's a pledge. They're making a pledge to future giving. I think that we'll probably try it out with just the annual fund concept of for 1 year. And then look to potentially, this is like 501 level now. We're going from 101 to 501, but I think we'd like to approach our community foundation about creating an endowment as our next strategy versus going into more giving unless we get to the point where we can hire a development officer. I had a question for you, Kate. How much do you get from your annual letter? I know you're on year 2, you said?
Yeah, it's real close, similar to yours. It's about 45,000, less than that. It's probably about the 35,000 mark. Some of those numbers I have in there is like the chamber's, $1,000 donation and some of those other players. So more like 35. Our goal is 50. I mean, that's where we would like to see it. So we got a couple in today. Some are still trickling in, even though we sent it out in February, and still doing those follow-ups and those personal asks. So the goal from that campaign is 50,000, but yeah, it's probably a little bit more like 35 right now, I would say.
For year 2, we sat at under 20,000 for a really long time, and then something happened where people decided I think they expanded their mailing list by a lot more, and then more people came on board, and so I'm really shocked. That's great.
Yeah, I think that mailing list is just really important, knowing those players that are willing to give, and then some of that feedback from our board members about putting that note on there on, you gave 500 last year, could you give 1,000 this year, or even just asking for a specific amount, knowing if they could increase it. So we've not really gotten that aggressive, but now that those 3-year commitments have ended this year, we will, it's in our next organization meeting to start planning for next year, because we will have to get a little bit more aggressive than we've had to in the past 3 years. Just some of those partners' commitments, they could always give again, but they may not give as much as what they have been those last 3 years. So we'll have to get creative.
So Andrea or Kate, with your guys's, you both briefly touched on the mailing list, but how have you guys grown that mailing list, or how do you gather those individuals for that list?
I want that to you, Kate.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. Ours mailing list, the first year going at it, I think came from just another one of our partner organizations sharing who they reached out to. And then we filtered it by downtown businesses. Since we're directly supporting them, we wanted to make sure the downtown stores were all on there. So that was kind of my directory, Heart of Jasper's directory that we had, made sure they were all on there. And then just combing through the town and making sure the large corporations, some of those big players that are willing to donate and support, were included. And then we did ask each board member to turn in at least 5 individual names that they felt like could be individual donors, whether they were downtown residents, it was family, it was friends. And so that kind of helped grow that personal individual donor list. And then, so since it's year 2, I mean, anyone that gave last year, we obviously sent a letter to. And then one of our planning meetings, we expanded the list of new businesses that have come in, or who donates to other organizations that you're part of that we could reach out to. This year, we also kept in mind our facade grant recipients. So if they receive facade grant money from Heart of Jasper, could they give back? We had a Genesis 12 COVID relief project last year. So we did reach out to those recipients, kind of a give back, pay it forward. So we also tried to grow it based on people who are now involved with Heart of Jasper in some way or another.
Great. Hillary has a question about, do you guys have any tips to get businesses excited about annual support or sponsorships even?
Yeah, I mean, I think the more you can speak on the progress the organization has made, things that the organization has been able to complete or show what they've done for their Main Street is important. I kind of went over our sponsorship form fairly quickly. We did have tickets to our farm to table dinner included on the sponsorship level. So I think can't remember, Missy might have mentioned that, having tickets to the event. So last year we did 2 tickets. This year for lower levels, we did discounted tickets. A similar thought too, like if you give someone 1 ticket, they're not going to come by themselves. So they're going to buy more tickets to the event so they can either fill a table or sit with some friends. So not that gets all businesses to want to become a sponsor, but at least that's kind of a perk to an event, and that's a little bit more fun than getting a cup. We did a lot of perks last year and realized we don't need to spend money on buying cups and t-shirts and all that stuff, because that's not really why people are sponsoring you in the first place. So we saved some money there by not buying all those giveaways.
I like Missy's idea too of connecting sponsors to the relevancy of the event. And so it had that cute Homa's basketball, and so you went to the home builder. Like, I think that's a good way to get people engaged and excited about something when they see how they fit.
Yeah, just a quick anecdote. So when I was a director, we had our board had talked about how do we target getting business giving. And it really was kind of convincing businesses that we're there for them, showing them what we do for them throughout the year. And then we actually created a business perks program. So what it was is just for the businesses in the district. What they could do is for a nominal fee. So there was $100 level, a $250 level, a $500, and then 1,000 plus. They got some like advertising incentives if they did that. One was we printed a map every year, which I would hope all you guys would do. But we listed every business in the district on the map. But then those who paid the minimum of $100 got like the little call out. So their name was bold and they got the pin, placing them on the map, and then their website got an advanced listing, so linked to their website and that kind of thing. So it is just kind of sometimes those businesses are looking for, what am I getting? And it's really just communicating that or maybe creating something.
Yeah, that's where we're in that terrifying point of we're gonna take away some of those things, but we'll give some of them back, but maybe they'll be paid. But I guess it's all scary when it's when you're trying something new.
And you did mention membership, and it's really just kind of getting away from that word membership, maybe not completely eliminating the perks that they get. Membership is really associated with chambers of commerce. And although some of our main streets are chamber main streets, we like to see main streets work for everybody, and that if you're a business or you're visiting Main Street, you get those services that Main Streets offer. So you don't have to pay for services, if you need one-on-one consultation or any of that kind of stuff. Just by locating in the district, you get those perks and don't have to pay for them.
Yeah, I was curious, Kate, when you made the decision to go with sponsor for everyone, was that a conversation you were part of?
That's just how we did it, even our first year. We never had memberships or anything. It was just sponsors. So like those sponsorship levels we kept the levels the same into year 2, but like last year we had, if you were $1,000 sponsor, you got your name on the website. Your name was on our promotions for events, but then also you got like 2 Tervis tumblers. You got a Heart of Jasper tote. I spent a lot of time delivering things to places because I couldn't just mail a thank you card. So we talked about that a lot this year. Like, do we buy new things now? And we're like, honestly, businesses, especially large ones, like are not giving us money because they want a Heart of Jasper bag and a cup to put on someone's desk. I doubt it even makes it to the CEO. But so we've only been sponsorships. So individual, like private sponsors, business sponsors. And so those 5 levels that were on that sheet, that's for everybody.
And do you find you get a decent amount of individual donors still, like individual names, Mr. and Mrs. so-and-so?
That's definitely our smallest portion. And even the last 2 years, we've talked about, like, if we want to, that would be one area to tap into more than what we're doing. But that goes back to those personal asks, because we're not going to have, addresses for all those individuals. So that really, when we tried to divide it up amongst our board members, that was just really homework and effort on them to pick up the phone and call people. And so we had some of our board members do it, but definitely more, it's definitely reduced in that area from our individuals. But the ones who gave last year all gave again this year. So that was good to see that redemption.
Mm-hmm. Missy, what do you think about the advice from our consultants that the effort of a fundraising event, the net money made, is likely not worth the staff time that went into the event? Did you find that?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Events are always a lot of work, so we just always have to balance that, making money and creating community and giving our sponsors excited and something to show for that. I think because we had that, I didn't show my t-shirt, but I wore my t-shirt today for you. It says, you had me at Pork Tenderloin, Lebanon, Indiana. And then we put our sponsor, I think it's on the back of my shirt, but we had there it is, Ryan Holmes on the back. And so they're excited. I met with them probably 2 weeks ago, Ryan Holmes, and they'd never been a sponsor before. And they were talking about the t-shirts still. Like, they thought the t-shirts were awesome and they were so excited about them. And I think we'll retain them as a sponsor because of that. And they were allowed to come to the event and have a booth, and they gave away prizes and stuff with their logo on it, as well as being an event sponsor. They were able to do that. So I think it just helped create a relationship with them, stronger relationship with them, having them at the event. So, the flip side of relationship building, instead of just, sending them a letter and that be the end of it. So that's what the event, I think, did for us, and maybe will generate more revenue in the future.
Andrea, go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to change topics. So.
I was just going to say, when I've not been in this role real long, but when I started, the director from the Community Foundation, I met with him. He's an advisor of Heart of Jasper, and it was interesting to hear you say that. He said that exact same thing of, pick 1 or 2 events that are going to be very successful, and they just take up so much time, and do those events well. And then it's all about donor and relationship building, which is like not my thing, but he said almost exactly what your consultant said. Like, take your donors to lunch, take them to coffee, explain what you're doing, and just keep them updated. I know. And so I'm not great at that, but he just said that same thing. So that's why, like, our farm to table is like really our one kind of big event. We spend a lot of time right now through the fall planning it, and we just don't have a lot of other events we're focused on now. That might change as we, become an older organization, but he said some very similar things. Yay.
That was one of the ideas that came out of our brainstorming sessions, in addition to writing a long-range fundraising plan, writing your case for support, which really brings you back to the basics of who your organization it is and some of those wins that you've had, and getting down to the storytelling. And I think that, did you say Indiana Main Street's really going to start talking about storytelling? And talking about your case for support and how that links to your mission statement and your vision statement and your guiding principles. And so it didn't feel like we were really writing a 3-year fundraising plan. It felt like we were deconstructing our whole organization and trying to rebuild it into a compelling case for support, which I'm just really glad that we have a full-time marketing person to help with that. But at the same time, that's why we're fundraising. So it's all this it's good to grow, but there'll be some growing pains. But one of the ideas that came out of that was creating a small fundraising thank you event. Like if you give at the $1,000 level and you're an individual, then you get this private bourbon tasting at one of the upstairs luxury apartments that you wouldn't normally see in downtown. Like connecting in something really special where they wouldn't want to say no to that. But then the fear of how do you up that the next year, and then the next year, and the next year is already sinking in. But those are some of our pieces on our homework list right now, in addition to writing the case for support and coming up with mining our data to find who some of those potential first donors could be. It's exciting. It's just very different work than what Main Street has typically been known for.
All right, we've got just a few minutes left. So does anybody have any final questions for our guest speakers today? All right, seeing and hearing none, thank you all for joining us. Our next webinar will actually be about the leveling up process. So if you are a current ODAN or an IMES community and you want to move up into a NOMS or an IMES, we will be sharing on that process and how that will go. It is changing, so we just want you guys to all be aware of that. But thank you all. And again, thank you, Kate, Missy, and Andrea for speaking about fundraising today.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Thanks for having us. Bye.